In this video, we're playing Burnt Offering from Ice Age alongside Chitin Gravestalker and Pauper Cycle Storm. Did I cook with this idea, or is it burned? In front of you is an idea that I've been sitting on for months, ever since the release of Chitin Gravestalker. And if you're unfamiliar with Chitin Gravestalker, it's a creature that costs less for each artifact and or creature in your graveyard, and it has cycling for 2 mana. It was released in Aether Drift. So the idea is to combine this with Burnt Offering from Ice Age. Ice Age isn't on Magic Online, so we have this treasure chest version, which is actually 10 tickets, which is kind of a lot for Magic Online, but here we are. So you can sacrifice a creature and then add red or black mana equal to its mana value. So you can play the Chitin Gravestalker for a single black mana, and then sacrifice it to Burnt Offering to make 6 mana, including red mana, which allows you to cast your Draenei Stingers. So the question that Pauper Cycle Storm has been asking for months is, how do you cast Draenei Stinger? I've completely cut the Blood Celebrant from this list. There's not even the one in the sideboard, and we are all in on Burnt Offering. Recently, the lists that I've been playing have been playing Lotus Petal. There's no Lotus Petals here today because we're playing the Burnt Offerings. So no Lotus Petal, but what I like about this is that one Burnt Offering allows you to play all 4 copies of your Draenei Stingers, and that's pretty nice. So that way you're easily able to beat Weather the Storm or life gain effects, etc. The other thing that Burnt Offering does is it unlocks Ardent Elementalist, which is back in today's deck list. So with the Ardent Elementalist, you play it, you return an instant or sorcery from your graveyard to your hand, including something like Songs of the Damned or Reaping the Graves. So the problem with this is that it's a one-time use. But when you have Burnt Offering, which requires you to sacrifice a creature, you could sacrifice the Ardent Elementalist and then return it using the Reaping the Graves, so that way you can use this single copy of Ardent Elementalist multiple times. So Burnt Offering unlocks a lot in this deck. It has a lot of upsides, and one of the upsides is that while you're comboing, it takes a lot of stress off of Songs of the Damned because you're able to make 6 mana. So it makes a lot more mana than a Lotus Petal, allowing your deck to be more consistent, but also less reliant on Songs of the Damned. We like that. And in fact, I've played this list in a couple matches in the practice room, and I've had starts where I've just played Burnt Offerings and Cabal Rituals and didn't even hit my Songs of the Damned until it was pretty low in my library, like 22 cards left in deck. And it didn't really seem as necessary to hit those Songs of the Damned. So I like the fact that this is doing a lot of pushing and pulling. And the other thing is that Chitin Gravestalker is a card that you play prior to Reaping the Graves, so it makes Storm. And if you have both Burnt Offering and Chitin Gravestalker, it's plus Storm. If you have just Chitin Gravestalker, it's equal to Lotus Petal on Storm. The downside here, Burnt Offering, if you don't have Chitin Gravestalker, does pretty much nothing. And if you have to Reaping the Graves with Burnt Offering sitting in your hand, you're negative Storm. So unlike Lotus Petal, it isn't always a benefit with Reaping the Graves, but I think the positives here could be worth testing. And I am not convinced that this is better than the stock list, but I do think it has legs, which is why we're playing it today. And another option that you have with this deck, and I'm not as confident with this plan, but we have the sideboard space, so I thought I'd do it today, is bringing back the Writhing Necromass, originally printed in Dominaria United, I believe. And it allows you to fully pivot into creature beatdown alongside the Chitin Gravestalker. So that way versus blue decks, you can bring in a bunch of 5/5 creatures and then just beat them down. You could return them with Reaping the Graves and sort of just play the creature game plan. Make the game not about casting Songs of the Damned or Reaping the Graves. So that is the idea here. That's the deck tech. And if you're unfamiliar, the deck is really just a cycling deck. I mean, you've been watching this for almost 4 minutes, but if you're unfamiliar, the Draenei healers, I'm becoming a little rambly, but the creature cycle, and then you fill up your graveyard with Songs of the Damned and make a ton of mana. You return those creatures with Reaping the Graves. You play more copies of Songs of the Damned. Eventually, you play your Draenei Stingers, you cycle cards and win the game. That is the TLDR. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff. And I will see you in match number 1. Don't go anywhere. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. You can also show your support by becoming a member of this channel. You get sweet perks such as badges, emotes, early access to videos, exclusive members-only content, and access to our members Discord section. As you increase the tiers, there are other rewards such as shop discounts, sideboard guides, and even free donation decks. Click the join button down below to find out more. We also have other ways you can support us, like theepicstorm.com/shop or submitting a donation deck via theepicstorm.com/donation decks. That's enough for now. Let's play some Magic. Match number 1 with Pauper Cycle Storm. We're on the play, and this list is featuring Burnt Offering as the deck tech mentioned. There's a lot of good information in there. Go check it out. No mana, no keeps. Mulligan. We'll try this one. We could probably bottom the Burnt Offering. I'm going to lead on the Great Furnace because I could always draw into a Vault of Whispers and cycle this Barrymore later. So something I realized in between the deck tech and this is that I didn't mention that we're not playing any white sources in the entire deck. That means that you cannot play out your Drannith healers. That is not an accident. I did think of that. And I guess why I'm mentioning it now is the Burnt Offering sort of covers the gap in between Songs of the Damned, so you don't have to cycle as low. I guess that's what I'm trying to say here is you don't have to use Street Wraiths as much once you have as much mana from the Burnt Offerings. So I think it's going to be okay in the long run, rather than trying to play stuff that just doesn't work. Like, I don't want to play a Blood Celebrant. It looks like we're playing the mirror match here. Like, Blood Celebrant stinks. Like, I just do not want to play that card. So, I don't want to have to play a card just to support Drannith Healer. I'd rather just play something that functions, rather than trying to, like, shoehorn in an awkward card, so that way I could theoretically have an out. They play Dark Ritual. Are you going for the turn 2 win here? Looks like they might be. Okay. No, they were just trying to hit land number 2. I'll just play Barrymore and pass. I mean, I don't have the resources to try to win here. My hand doesn't function that great. Like, my hand wouldn't be any better if this Burnt Offering was a Lotus Petal, for example. They cycle a Monstrous Carabid. Sure. And they missed on the land again. They discarded another creature. Dark Ritual. Okay, I would like to Rowan's Grim Search here. Dark Ritual is a very good draw, because that gives us the possibility of winning this turn. And I think I'll actually use the red mana here too, because I'd rather have double black available. I think we take the Cabal Ritual, and then maybe the Reaping. So I only have 3 creatures in the graveyard. Is it really worth trying to do something here? Play the Cabal Ritual, and then I guess I'll Reaping. I mean, I'm just afraid of being dead, but I'm not in a spot where I can actually try to do something. So I think, like, the real game plan here is we just cycle and pass, unless, like, I hit, like, Street Wraith. Cycle again. Yeah, so we're going to pass the turn. We'll play the land. Hope that I'm not dead. I was really hoping that Rowan's was going to be a bunch of creatures. They play a Dark Ritual. They cycle Imposing Vantage Sword. There's a good chance I'm dead here. Like, look at all the creatures in their graveyard. Like, a Songs of the Damned, and I'm out of this. Oh boy. They found land number 2. I mean, I played 25 creatures. Like, that's a lot. And I just didn't draw any. They play a Rowan's Grim Search. And it revealed 3 lands and then a card that they kept. Another Rowan's Grim Search. So they likely have everything they need by now. Dark Ritual. They cycle Imposing Vantasaur. Monstrous Carabid. Lotus Petal. And there's a Songs of the Damned. They have 2 cards. Reaping the Graves. I'm good to pick this one up. Okay, we can go to the next one. We needed more creatures, and we did not have them. We'll bring in Fairy Macabres, and then maybe Duress. Get rid of the Ardent Elementalist. This might be crazy. I'm going to board out Dark Ritual. So I think Dark Ritual, when you have Burnt Offering in the deck, might be the worst accelerant. So I'm going to try this. In theory, you could be a crazy person and try a list that has Lotus Petals and Burnt Offerings with no Dark Ritual. I just don't know if that's a good idea. Dark Ritual gets you off the ground a lot. Like, it's the card you want when you start to win. So I don't think you want to cut Dark Ritual from the deck entirely. In this matchup, I think it's fine, though, because you have Fairy Macabres to slow down the game. So that is why I'm doing the sideboarding like this. But, I mean, you could try Lotus Petals and no Dark Rituals. That's an option. I just don't know if I'm a believer in that. On the play. Sure. Cycle Street Wraith. Cycle Street Wraith. Great Furnace and pass. They play Barrenmore. We'll cycle Draenith Healer. Horror of the Broken Lands was the draw. We need some black mana here. Cycle Healer. And we missed. Pass the turn. They play a Great Furnace. We draw Vault of Whispers. Let's Duress them. Take that Songs of the Damned. Pass the turn. They cycle the Horror of the Broken Lands and a Carabid. So we knew that they drew a Carabid off of the Horror. Now they cycle Imposing Vantasaur and another Carabid. So we know their hand for the most part. You should try to cycle ones that your opponent knows about because it's less information. Very Macabre. I think that means that I can just cycle the Horror here. Alright, we'll pass. I could have tried to go for it right there, and I probably would have if I didn't draw the Fairy Macabre. They cycle a Healer, 6 cards in the graveyard. Now they cycle Imposing Vantasaur, and another Barrenmore. Okay, we're going to use Fairy Macabre, exile, Healer, and Horror of the Broken Lands. That gives us Threshold, so I'll play Cabal Ritual. And now we can cycle the Chitin Gravestalker, cycle the Stinger, Cabal Ritual, cycle the Barrenmore, Duress just for Storm, take the Reaping, Songs of the Damned for Storm, and then we're going to hold priority on this and Reaping the Graves. I think I'm going to return the Chitin Gravestalker here for this Burnt Offering. Street Wraith, Healer, and I'm going to leave the Fairy Macabre in the graveyard. I think we're in a combo move right now. I shouldn't be playing defensively. Cycle the Street Wraiths, cycle Barrenmore, Cabal Ritual, cycle the Healer, another Fairy Macabre, we'll cycle Healer, cycle Horror of the Broken Lands, Rowan's is good, cycle Stinger, and I'm going to keep the Chitin Gravestalker, I think, but still with the songs on the stack, let's Rowan's. All 4 of those can go to the graveyard. And then we'll cycle a Stinger. So now songs can resolve. We will Rowan's Grim Search again, down to 8. All of those can go to the graveyard. We'll play Chitin Gravestalker, Cabal Ritual. We'll Burnt Offering, sacrificing the Chitin Gravestalker. Play Songs of the Damned. And Reaping the Graves. Alright. So at this point, it's just winning the game. And our opponent concedes. Alright, off to game 3. I'm going to try something a little different this game. I'm going to do 2 Burnt Offering, 2 Chitin Gravestalker. Let's try this out. Maybe this is better. I don't really know, but I like the idea of not needing another card to support it in a speed matchup. This hand is wonderful. Keep. They play a Great Furnace. We draw Chitin Gravestalker. We'll play the Vault of Whispers and just pass. They cycle Imposing Vantasaur. Another Great Furnace. We'll cycle Horror of the Broken Lands. We did not hit a land. Let's play Dark Ritual. Cycle the Healer. Cycle Monstrous Carabid. Another Dark Ritual. Alright, Dark Ritual. Cycle Monstrous Carabid. We hit the land. Play the land. Let's cycle Healer. Am I really going to try to win from this spot? Storm is 2. We have 5 creatures in the graveyard. Alright, Dark Ritual. I mean, they could have a Fairy Macabre. Play Cabal Ritual. Reaping the Graves. All I wanted was a second land, and now I'm being, like, sort of forced into mini-comboing here. Duress. That's not a bad one. Cycle the Healer. I have a feeling we're going to end up passing. Cycle the Carabid. Songs for 5? That's not a ton of mana. I think I'm going to just Duress and pass. I feel like trying to push a combo this turn is not the way. And now I'll Duress them. Reaping, Songs. They just need black mana. Take the Reaping the Graves. Pass the turn. I'm surprised they didn't cycle Street Wraiths looking for a Fairy Macabre in response to my Reaping the Graves. They cycle a Carabid. Now a Stinger. They play Barrenmore. So they could have the win next turn. We draw Horror of the Broken Lands. We'll play our Vault of Whispers. Cycle Monstrous Carabid. Cycle the Horror of the Broken Lands. We'll play Songs. Cycle Healer. Cycle Horror. Cycle Draenith Stinger. Cycle Stinger. So this Songs will make 9 mana. Okay, the Burnt Offering was good, but now we need to find another Reaping the Graves here. Sacrifice the Great Furnace. Take the Rowans. We're going to get rid of everything else. So because This is actually really risky. Because I boarded down to 2 Burnt Offerings, if I bin this one, I have to leave red mana floating to win with this Burnt Offering. So am I supposed to keep this one and just assume that the other Roans will hit? I think I'm supposed to keep the Burnt Offering. Chitin Gravestalker. I guess I can just Roans. I didn't need to play the Gravestalker yet. And I did hit. Okay. I hit twice. We will Burnt Offering. We'll make all black. Alright, so I'm light on mana here, but not the end of the world. We'll return another Chitin Gravestalker. Storm is 7. Street Wraith, plus some other stuff. So I need another Songs of the Damned. We're at less than 50% of the deck, so I've seen 2 songs, so we should see another one at some point. Very Macabre, Cycle the Stinger. Alright, so I could stop right now and then just play the Gravestalker and then Burnt Offering. I think that's the move. So I'll play the Gravestalker and then Burnt Offering. Let's make 6 mana. We'll do 2 red. I feel like I only need double Stinger to win. I don't need triple Stinger. And then we'll cycle a Horror of the Broken Lands, Cabal Ritual, cycle a Drain of Stinger, Street Wraith down to 10, cycle the Healer. Okay, we'll cycle another Stinger. Oh no. Oh no. This is bad. 18 cards left. So I think it's actually better to Reaping here. And I'll leave 1 red floating. So I have triple Street Wraith to try to hit. 1, 2, 3. And I actually messed up here. I should have used the Fairy Macabre. I was too busy thinking about the combo. I should have Fairy Macabre. Cycle. Cycle. There we go. Oh, I should have Fairy Macabre there too. I'm just an idiot. I'm just like so nervous about messing this up. Okay. Yeah, I definitely misplayed that. And we should have a pretty easy win from here. Cycle. I did Fairy Macabre them just now. I didn't announce it. I don't know why. I just didn't do it. We'll exile 2 more creatures. Cycle a Horror of the Broken Lands. Cabal Ritual. Cycle a Stinger. The 3rd Fairy Macabre. Exile Street Wraith and an Imposing Vantasaur. Where'd your graveyard go? Dark Ritual. Cycle Street Wraith down to 4. Cycle the Healer. Duress them because I can. Take the Rowan's Grim Search. Cycle Street Wraith. Cycle the Chitin Gravestalker. Cabal Ritual. Songs. And Reaping. So we got match number 1 in the mirror match. I think that means that this is definitively the better list, right? Like that's what science says. Triple Fairy Macabre, clearly better than double Fairy Macabre. I'm assuming that they're playing my stock list. But Fairy Macabre the last 2... Actually, I added another card to the graveyard. Well, Fairy Macabre again. You don't get to have a graveyard. We'll cycle Horror of the Broken Lands. And we'll cycle another Horror of the Broken Lands. So we win with no library and dealing them exactly... I guess I don't draw the card. So they die before I would draw the card. So I win with 1 card in my library. And that's match number 1. So Burnt Offering functions, but it made us sweat a little bit. Based on my boarding. Maybe I should have left in at least 3 instead of 2. Who knows? But we'll see how it plays in the rest of the matches. I'll see you in match number 2. Moxfield.com is the easiest way to build a Magic deck online. They support over 30 formats, including Legacy and many other Eternal formats. There are so many options to view decks the way that you want, from text view to individual cards, mana value, and even card price. There's also light mode and dark mode. My personal favorite feature is card tags. This way you can sort cards by function. Moxfield supports collection tracking, Scryfall search, decklist feedback, and so much more. Follow me on Moxfield.com so you can stay updated on all of my decks. Round number 2 on the play. Sure, this seems okay. Like, I don't love it, but it's fine enough. I do think that the Burnt Offering in this hand is probably better than Lotus Petal. We'll play Great Furnace and pass the turn. Our opponent thought for a while on their 7, so I wonder what they're playing, if they happen to have, like, main deck Graveyard Hate, or what they were considering for that long about. Cycle the Drain of Stinger. Looks like they might be on Terror. We'll cycle the Stinger, see if I draw into a black source. I don't. We'll play the Great Furnace and pass. So this is a hand where this Ardent Elementalist would have been a lot better as the 4th copy of Rowan's Grim Search, and they are on Blue Terror. Oh, they're on the black build, so they might have a main deck Bajuga Bog. I don't love that. We'll play the Barrenmore. And these are the, like, this right here is why I'm on the 4-up list. Because if this was a Rowan's Grim Search, this game would be very different. Ah, that's disappointing. Like, people love Ardent Elementalist, but I think the reality is people really like the situations where they go super big and win the game. They don't want to think about all the times that he gets stranded in their hand and does nothing. And that's sort of why I quit playing these effects. They play a Terror. Okay. Need something good here. We'll cycle the Healer. Another Reaping the Graves. Dark Ritual. Dark Ritual. This would have been, like, this would have been us winning if this was a Rowan's Grim Search. We'll play Reaping. Return. Cycle. We do not have Threshold for Cabal Ritual. Tap the Great Furnace. Cycle the Healer. I have to pass the turn. I'm sorry to keep on harping on this, but it's just like sort of confirming my belief that 4 Rowan's Grim Search is the way, and that like you just don't want to be playing Ardent Elementalist. They attack for 5, I go to 15. They have 6 cards in their hand. Cycle a Carabid. So you might be saying, why am I doing this on my main phase? I feel like I need more black mana if I'm going to win this game in order to beat Counterspell. Cycle the Carabid. This is a spot where the Burnt Offering is worse than Lotus Petal. Cycle this Street Wraith. Oh my, yeah. If these were Lotus Petals, we'd be in a much better spot. They cycle Lorien Revealed and a Thought Scour. Get rid of Burnt Offering. So they're going to attack for 7 here. Another Terror. Yeah, I don't think I can win this. Let's see if they let Cabal Ritual resolve. I doubt it. Yep, and we're dead. I guess I could try to cycle into Vault of Whispers. Nope. Okay. So Lotus Petal and the 4th Rowan's would have been much better this game than what we had. But it's just one game. Let's see how it plays out throughout the rest of the league. We're bringing in our Writhing Necromass and our Pyroblast. Board out the Ardent Elementalist. I think we probably want to cut down on the Burnt Offerings. We're at 64, which is a lot. I think you can get rid of at least 1 Rowan's, a Cabal Ritual, and then let's try shaving down to 2 Dark Rituals. I think Dark Ritual is the worst mana in the deck, as I said in match number 1, when you're playing the Burnt Offerings. Plus, Burnt Offering, when you have Writhing Necromass in your deck, makes a lot of mana. We'll keep. Do need to be wary of Bazooka Bog out of them. I disrespected it in game 1 because I needed the mana. Vault of Whispers and pass. They play an island. We'll cycle Healer. Writhing Necromass. Play the Barrenmore. We'll pass the turn. They cycle Lorien Revealed. I need more creatures. That's what I really need now. They play an island. We'll cycle the Stinger. Another Necromass. Okay. Cabal Ritual. I think I just have to pass the turn. I'm likely going to cycle the Chitin Gravestalker. Just trying to not play super hard into Bazooka Bog. That's why I didn't cycle on my main phase. So recycling, I did hit a land. We'll play the Barrenmore, pass the turn. 3 creatures in the graveyard. They Thought Scour. It's a Sneaky Snacker. They pause there on their land. I have a gut feeling that they have Bazooka Bog. We drew another land. Stinger. I think I'm going to be patient here. If they try to bog me, I could try to Reaping the Graves in response. My game plan is, if they don't bog me, cycle Stinger, hopefully add another creature, and then on the following turn I can play double Necromass. Then if they try to counter, I can try to mini combo and put everything back, including the Chitin Gravestalker in the graveyard. So they search out an island, they play it, 7 cards in their hand. Cycle the Stinger, that's 5. Another Songs. Okay. Another Reaping. So the Necromass would cost 2 mana here. Let's play Necromass. They just resolved. Wow. Pass the turn. They play a Cast Down. Okay. They play a Terror. So now this Necromass will only cost 1. And we drew another. So Writhing Necromass. What about another Writhing Necromass? And that one resolves as well. Okay. Pass the turn. They Mental Note. It's another Sneaky Snacker. They play land number 5, so I don't have to worry about Bazooka Bog this turn. Extract a Confession. Okay. They left in a lot of removal, it seems. No blocks. I think we're going to go for it, but I'm going to start by attacking. Hiya! Dark Ritual. Let's attempt a Cabal Ritual. Burnt Offering, sacrificing the Writhing Necromass. That's 7 mana, baby! Definitely better than Lotus Petal here. We'll make some red mana. Let's try Songs of the Damned. Another Songs of the Damned. Reaping the Graves. Return Necromass, Necromass, Chitin Gravestalker, Stinger, Stinger. Alright, so we have 2 creatures in the graveyard, so we probably would like to cycle these Stingers. Another Gravestalker. Cycle the Street Wraith down to 13. That's 5 creatures in the graveyard. Cycle the Horror of the Broken Lands. We'll play a Necromass. Another Writhing Necromass. How about a third Writhing Necromass? Chitin Gravestalker. And another Chitin Gravestalker. They're going to counterspell, that's fine. We're Reaping the Graves. Show them what's what. And they concede. What, my army of undead 5/5 zombies wasn't cool? Alright, so we win game number 2. That was fun. Our deck functioned. Let's try it again. Yeah, I mean, I like this. It's just we need to draw lands. They play a Contaminated Aquifer. We'll play the Great Furnace and pass. They play Ice Tunnel. We'll cycle Drain Stinger. No land. Another Writhing Necromass. We'll cycle the other Stinger. Cycle Street Wraith. Unfortunate, we missed on 4 lands that turn. Well, I guess over a full turn cycle, but we missed. That's not good. They Thought Scour. We'll get rid of Burnt Offering. Now they Brainstorm. Another Thought Scour. Mills over double Sneaky Snacker. Alright, black mana, please. Like, if we could hit a black mana here. Vault of Whispers. Unfortunate. They gave us a really big window to do a lot of damage there, and we just missed it. Discard Horror of the Broken Lands. They cycle Lorien Revealed. If we could have hit a Vault of Whispers there, we were off to the races. Looks like they're about to play a Gurmag Angler. Yep. Another Writhing Necromass. Oh, wow. Yeah, I feel like this game got away from us. 1 land in the top 15 cards of our deck. And now they hit their Nile Spellbomb. Yeah, this game's over. Great Furnace doesn't help. Okay, so our mana base betrayed us in game number 3. Might be an argument for Lotus Petals. We did find 1 Burnt Offering that game that could have been a Lotus Petal. So that would have been a black mana. Tough to say. A little disappointed because the game plan really worked in game number 2. It did not work in game 3 because of our mana. So Lotus Petal is an untapped black mana, and currently we only have 4 in the deck with just the Great Furnace. So food for thought. We lose match number 2, and let's try to get match number 3. Looking to make playing your favorite combo deck much easier? Look no further than the Epic Storm Mini Combo Pack, which is available at theepicstorm.com/shop for $15.99. This token combo pack comes with 84 double-sided tokens featuring classic Storm and Mana tokens with new inclusions such as our modern Ruby Storm package, but that's not all. Our token pack covers a variety of formats from Pauper to CDH with new tokens. Stop on by theepicstorm.com/shop and make an easy decision to elevate your combo game. Alright, let's bounce back from that tough loss. We're on the play for match number 3. Sure, we'll keep. Great Furnace past the turn. They play a Colony Garden, so likely the Golgari Gardens deck, which is a good matchup for us, but you need to not overextend into Bojuka Bog. And right now, we don't have black mana, so I hate this Ardent Elementalist so much. Alright, Barrymore was a good draw. We'll pass. They just play a Swamp and pass the turn. We did not draw the land. I'm going to pass and cycle on the Ansept to just avoid playing further into Bojuka Bog. They cycle a Troll of Khazad-dûm. They play the Swamp from the Troll of Khazad-dûm, so we can hide that now. And now a Fanatical Offering. Okay. End step will cycle the Drain Stinger. And cycle the Horror of the Broken Lands. We found the Chitin Gravestalker, so we could Burn Offering on our turn. It does come at a cost, though. I have to play the Songs of the Damned for 4, which I don't love. Okay, so there is a line here that exists. It's technically mana negative for 1, but I think it's going to be okay. We'll play the Gravestalker. Oh, it costs more than 1. That's not ideal. Maybe I should have waited and thought through this. Okay, so I will Ardent Elementalist and get back the songs. And now I can Burnt Offering, getting rid of the Elementalist. We'll make black mana. So now the Gravestalker should cost 1. And now we can Burnt Offering away the Gravestalker. So it works how I wanted it to. I just had to switch the order of the way I wanted to cast my spells. And now we'll Rowan's Grim Search. Sacrifice a Great Furnace. I think we take the Cabal Ritual. Play the Cabal Ritual. Let's cycle the Chitin Gravestalker. Cycle the Monstrous Carabid, another Cabal Ritual, Songs of the Damned, and Reaping the Graves. Storm is 10. Street Wraiths first, then other Cyclers, and then the other Chitin Gravestalker, Ardent Elementalist, and then a second target that doesn't really matter. Alright, so we'll cycle the Street Wraiths. Dark Ritual was the draw. Okay. Cycle the Healer. A little bit of a lag there. Another Gravestalker. I'm going to hold that for now. Cabal Ritual. Cycle the Horror of the Broken Lands. Cycle Monstrous Carabid. Dark Ritual. Cycle the Horror. Reaping the Graves. Cycle Stinger. Another Burnt Offering. So I think we're getting to the end of it now. Okay. We'll play the Gravestalker. Play another Burnt Offering. Make a couple more red mana and then black. Play the Gravestalkers, because I can. And then we'll Ardent Elementalist. Get back these Songs of the Damned. Cast it for 10. So this is all fun and games, and it looks really great when you're doing this. I will admit, I think it's kind of win more in this spot. Like, I didn't need to do that. It was kind of just like, oh, my brain doesn't need to function anymore because I have all the resources I could ever want. But is that really what you want to be doing? Or do you want to be playing the best and smoothest deck list possible? Because early in this game, that Ardent Elementalist was a blank. So I've just sort of changed my perspective a lot on those style of cards. The Repository Scob, Ardent Elementalist style things. Like, I think I just want cards that are good at all stages of the game, including setup. And that's not what this card is. So I'll play a Stinger. And now we can just cycle to victory. Okay. We're at 18. If I find another Stinger, I'll probably play it, but it does open you up to them having like a Defile to kill your first Stinger, and then you just wasted mana. We're at 14. We'll cycle another Healer. Dark Ritual. Cabal Ritual. Cycle a Street Wraith. They'll go to 12. Cycle another Street Wraith. I'll go to 4. Cycle this one. We'll play out the other Stinger, I suppose. Cycle the Barrenmoor. Another at 8. Cycle the Chitin Gravestalker. They're at 6. Cycle the Healer. They'll go to 4. Play Songs of the Damned. I'm going to be lazy. I really don't want to have to Reaping the Graves again, so I'm going to go to 2. Well, that didn't work. Okay, Reaping the Graves. Okay, so now we'll return a couple Cyclers and then win the game. Alright, we can leave the rest of those on the stack. No need to waste time. Cycle. And cycle. Alright, we beat Golgari Gardens in game number 1. We likely just want a couple copies of Siege Smash here. And we'll board out 2 copies of Dark Ritual. Try this out. Game number 2, this is an easy mulligan. This is probably fine. We'll bottom the Burnt Offering. They play a first turn Colony Garden. We'll play Vault of Whispers and pass. So something to be concerned with about this matchup is we only have 4 untapped black mana sources. And a lot of these decks play Troublemaker Oof that could attack our lands. Alright, Duress. Against discard, I do really like having the Burnt Offerings because it's like having mini Songs of the Damned in the deck. So I don't hate that. And they do take a Songs here. There also might be some world out there in which you play like 2 copies of Burnt Offering. But I don't know how it really functions when you're fitting in a bunch of... what am I trying to say here? Chitin Gravestalkers. Like, is it worth playing Chitin Gravestalker just for 2 copies of Burnt Offering? That's something I struggled with when I was constructing the deck list, because I'm not sure that it's worth it at that point. Because it's not like you like cycling Chitin Gravestalker for 2 mana. Like, 2 mana is a lot. They play a Colony Garden, and step will cycle the Monstrous Carabid, cycle the Street Wraith. Alright, we needed creatures, we did not hit. I think I'm going to just pass here. I could try to combo off with 4 creatures. I think it's a little bit risky. I'd like to wait at least 1 more turn. The Fanatical Offering. They play another Swamp. Alright, and they just pass. End step will cycle, drain a Stinger. Rowan's Grim Search. Okay, I think it's time to party. Dark Ritual. We'll cycle Monstrous Carabid. Let's use the red mana. So that gives us Threshold for these Cabal Rituals. We'll play Cabal Ritual. And let's Rowan's Grim Search. Sacrifice the Great Furnace. We'll take Reaping the Graves. I don't think I want any of these other cards. So we'll bin the other 3. Another Cabal Ritual is lovely. Play the other Cabal Ritual. Cycle the Barrenmoor. 3rd Reaping the Graves. Okay. So we'll return Ardent Elementalist. with the original, so that way it resolves last. Street Wraith first, and then the others. So we saw 33% of our deck and only 6 creatures, with one of the creatures being Ardent Elementalist. We'll cycle a healer. And in this spot, I have to think my opponent has to have at least 1 copy of Weather the Storm. So you want to be able to beat that without playing too many cards out. Like, you want to play a Stinger sooner rather than later, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Another Songs. Cycle the Stinger. Cycle the Healer. Might as well let this one monstrous Carabid cycle. It could hit a Street Wraith. We'll play Songs for 9. Cycle the Barrenmoor. Another Rowan's Grim Surge. We'll cast that. Sacrifice the Vault of Whispers. We'll take Songs of the Damned. We don't want the Chitin Gravestalker. Cycle the Stinger. Songs. Songs. And then we'll let the Ardent Elementalist return. And now we'll... Hold on. Play the Great Furnace. I guess we'll play the Ardent Elementalist. Like, this is another spot where I feel like we don't actually need this card. Like, it probably would have been better as a cycler, but we'll play the Songs, we'll play the Ardent Elementalist, get back to Songs. And now we have so much mana where we just need to hit a Burnt Offering so we can play multiple Stingers. And you don't have to play out a Chitin Gravestalker. You could just sacrifice the Ardent Elementalist. Alright, I've made my targets. We're just going to return all of our friends. I have enough mana floating. We don't need to cycle with them on the stack. I guess I should do my obligatory thing every video, which is, why do you cycle with Reaping the Graves on the stack? Like, I get comments on it on every video, and I usually explain it in the first match. I just didn't today because I didn't think of it. You want to leave the most number of creatures in the graveyard as possible when you're cycling, because that means that when you draw into Songs of the Damned, you have a full graveyard. If you let all of the copies resolve, like right now, Songs of the Damned has no creatures in the graveyard. Big fat 0. So now if I was to start cycling and I drew a Songs of the Damned, it would make 1 or 2 mana. But if you cycle in between each resolution, you'll have 20 plus mana in there. And that's the idea. But also, watch more videos. I explain it in all of them, I promise. What creature am I trying to cycle here? A Carabid, okay. Cycle another Carabid. And another. Play Dark Ritual, cycle a Drannith Healer, drew another Stinger. We just need a Burnt Offering. The 4th Stinger. We'll cycle a Chitin Gravestalker, cycle Street Wraith, I go to 10. There's another Gravestalker, cycle Street Wraith, I'm at 8. Cycle a Healer, cycle another Chitin Gravestalker. 3 songs, 1, 2, no, all 4 songs are in the graveyard. We'll play Rowan's Grim Search, I'll go to 6. The opponent's thinking pretty hard here. I mean, do your thing. We'll take the Burnt Offering. We hit another Burnt Offering. We'll sacrifice this. Make some red mana. Play another Gravestalker. Sacrifice. Take black mana. Let's play a Stinger. So now if they Weather the Storm, they'll gain 69 life. Nice. Oh no, a Weather the Storm. How will we ever beat that? Oh no. So much life. Maybe I should have made a couple more red mana. I wasn't thinking. Now that I'm like actually in the moment, we're going to be able to beat this, don't get me wrong. But if I wanted to play out all 4 Stingers and return the Ardent Elementalist, I would have wanted 1 more red. Or if they have a removal spell, I would have wanted more. We'll hold the 3rd Stinger for now. Let's Reaping the Graves. Return the Ardent Elementalist. You don't even need the Elementalist here. Like, I think you could probably beat 83 by just playing it out, but I feel like it's the safest thing to do is play out the Ardent Elementalist. I could be wrong, though. Alright, we're going to respond to this. Do I want to respond? Also, you shouldn't do it with the Reaping trigger on the stack. That's just not the right time. I need to look at my mana. But all 4 songs are in there. 1 Dark Ritual, 3 Cabal Rituals that I see, 4 copies of Cabal Ritual, 2 Burnt Offering, 3 Burnt Offering. So I still have 1 Burnt Offering to make more red, it seems like. Let's cycle the Stinger. So this will put them down to 80. And now we'll cycle Street Wraith. I'm at 4. Cycle a Healer. The Gravestalker. Do I want to spend mana cycling that? I'm not convinced that I do. Alright, we're going to let that go. And now Reaping. And I think I'm only going to return the 1 Street Wraith because I can't cycle 2. So it's better to leave the other ones in the graveyard. Okay. Alright, so we have 5 cards left in our library. I'd like to find the Burnt Offering, so we're going to just start with cycling here. Cycle a Healer. 3 cards left in library. Cycle of Horror, Cycle Horror, 2 cards left. I'm going to turn off this auto yield just to make sure I don't accidentally deck myself. So this last card should be the Burnt Offering that I might have bottomed on a mulligan, I think. Was that this game? It might be. There it is. So now I'll play the Chitin Gravestalker. We'll sacrifice the Gravestalker. Alright, and now I'll play the Ardent Elementalist. This can get back Songs of the Damned. We'll play a Stinger. Play Stinger. Okay. That's all 4 Stingers. And I have no library. And I have to deal 64. How much mana does the Songs make? 9? So we'll start by cycling Street Wraith. This puts me to 2. And they'll take 4. We never want to let these draw triggers resolve. That's how we lose. So now we'll cycle. So now Songs, this makes 11. So 11 times 4 is 44. I am short. Alright, so we did not end up getting there. I mean, I've been like 120 life before with 4 Stingers, so I wonder where I went wrong this game. Maybe it was focusing too much on the Ardent Elementalist. I'm not sure. Because I've been a lot of life from Weather before. Like 80 shouldn't have beaten me. Maybe it's the fact that I used all of my songs early on. But oh well. We'll try it again. You could bring in Duress just to try to hit Weather the Storm. But I don't think that's actually what you want to be doing. On the play. Cannot keep that. We'll try this one. 6 minutes is not a lot of time. I wasted a lot of clock in game 2. So my fear is timing out. We'll play Barrenmore, just pass. I'm going to have to F6 a lot more, which probably means cycling my main phase and opening myself up to losing to Bazooka Bog due to the clock considerations. They play a Colony Garden. We're just going to double cycle. Pass the turn. Duress is annoying. Oh, we lost a song that game to Duress. That was another thing that happened. And there goes another. They cycle a Troll of Khazad-dûm. Burnt Offering is not a good draw. We'll cycle the Stinger. Pass the turn. Yeah, I'm afraid I wasted too much clock in game 2. I was pretty convinced I could win, but I guess I was wrong. And there's the Bog. Ugh. Yep. Cycle the Horror. Cycle Healer. Cycle... I just have to do this on my main phase, like, if I want to win with 5 minutes on the clock. So, if I lose to another Bog, I lose the second Bog. They play Fanatical Offering. And land number 4. Another Duress. They take the song. So this is a good spot for Ardent Elementalist, I will admit. It is good versus discard. Reaping. I think I just have to pass. They play Eviscerator's Insight. Land number 5. And a Limbas. Another Duress. Wow. That's 3 of them in the top third of their deck. Oh, geez. I was yielded until end step, so I couldn't respond due to the time. But in paper, I probably would have responded there. I would have gotten back 2 creatures to start cycling. And then, like, if they discard a Cabal Ritual or Burnt Offering, I don't care. But because I was F6'd due to being less than 5 minutes, it just wasn't an option. They play another Limbas, cycle the Carabid, cycle Stinger, pass the turn. So there's no point in really playing out a Gravestalker, because it's probably going to just eat a removal spell, and I want it for the Burnt Offering. Like, next turn, we could Cabal Ritual, Gravestalker, Burnt Offering, Ardent Elementalist, get back the Reaping and try to win that way, but we only have 2 songs, so it's going to be a little risky. They play another land, they have 6 cards in their hand. Crypt Rats. 3 Wraith, I'll cycle that. I think this is the turn we have to go. Reaping was a good draw. Alright, so Cabal Ritual. We'll play the Gravestalker. Burnt Offering. Play the Ardent Elementalist. Get back Songs of the Damned. We'll play it for 8 mana. Reaping the Graves. Okay, 3 minutes. I just don't have the resources, I don't think. If this is Crypt Incursion, I lose. They keep on pausing. Eviscerator's Insight, sure. I wonder if I'm supposed to try to cycle. I wonder if I should just play out a Stinger here with 3 minutes on the clock and just try to get there. Alright, Stinger time. Alright, no weather. Cycle the Street Wraith. Play out another Great Furnace. Cycle Street Wraith. Cycle Horror. Cycle the Monstrous Carabid. Cycle Carabid. 3 minutes on the clock. Can we do it? Reaping was good. We're at 14. Cycle the Healer. Play the Gravestalker. Burnt Offering. And now let's Rowan's Grim Search. Sacrifice Great Furnace. Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual. 2 minutes and 20-something seconds. Cabal Ritual. Reaping the Graves. My opponent's pausing a lot on each copy, and I'm not sure if they're just trying to, like, get me here with my seconds or not, but I'm just clicking as fast as I can. Alright, play the second stinger. They cast down, we'll respond. Alright, so we have to deal 12 damage, 11 damage, something like that. Minute 30 on the clock. I will need more mana, so I need like a Songs of the Damned or something. Ball Ritual. Cast that. So that is exactly 8, but I don't have 8 cyclers here. I should have enough time to cycle 8 things in a minute and 20 seconds. Cycle the Horror, cycle Healer, cycle Street Wraith, cycle Barrenmore, Dark Ritual, and then we could just cycle the Gravestalkers. I have enough mana to cycle those. Alright, so we did it. 5-minute victory in game 3. Wow, 51 seconds left on the clock. We got the job done. Whew, that made me sweat a little bit, but hopefully you enjoyed it. And we are now 2-1 in this Pauper League. If you're still watching, make sure to give this video a like, comment, and subscribe. While you're near the description, here's a reminder to use our affiliate links if you're going to make a purchase from Amazon, Card Hoarder, or TCG Player. Just above those affiliate links, you'll find our social channels. Make sure to join those to connect with us. Round number 4, on the draw, I will keep this. So a thought that I had during deck building, and I'm just talking out loud here, is when you look at our sideboard, it's mostly black cards, right? Like you have a lot of black cards here. You do have the Pyroblast and then the Siege Smashes. A thought occurred to me, and I don't know how you would make it work, but in theory, you could try being mono black and then just playing 8 basic swamps and no Rowan's Grim Search. Rowan's Grim Search really fuels this deck, so I don't know if I love that. But you could try looking at, if you wanted to make Burnt Offering work and then not having the Great Furnace draws, that would be a way of doing it. And we're in a tough spot here. Our opponent is putting us to 18. They could kill us before we even untap for a turn 3. I'll burn the Dark Ritual to see if I can find a land here. Cycle the Monstrous Carabid. Maybe we'll try for a turn 2 win. Who knows? Cycle. Are we going for it? I think we are. Turn 2. Let's Rowan's Grim Search. Sacrifice the Great Furnace. Double Songs of the Damned. I don't know if I'm allowed to get rid of those. I think we have to take them. I wish that that did not happen. We'll play Cabal Ritual. And then burn 1 Songs. We'll hold on to the other 2. Target the Chitin Gravestalker. And now we'll start cycling. I suppose we'll target, but then we'll start cycling. I'm going to try to get a little bit more mana. Excuse me, I had a cough. Try to get a little bit more mana out of this than just the 4. So Burnt Offering obviously works well with the Chitin Gravestalker, but we need another Reaping the Graves before we even think about that. So we have 2 draws left. I'll Cabal Ritual. Cycle the Monstrous Carabid. So I can cast that just to draw 2, but it does not do anything else, because I've already played my land for the turn and we do not have a Lotus Petals. So it's 3 mana, draw 2, and I lose 2 life. I suppose I'll play Rowan's Grim Search. We hit a Street Wraith, so now that means that these songs will make an extra mana. We'll play Songs of the Damned for 6, and I'll return the Chitin Gravestalker, and then we'll Burnt Offering, sacrificing the Gravestalker. We'll make some red mana here, and then some black, cycle a Barrenmore, another Gravestalker. Do I want to play that? No, the question is, do I want to cycle? And I feel like I do. It's -1 mana, but I get to look at another card. Cycle the Drannith Healer, and now we'll play Songs. And the Ardent Elementalist. This can return Reaping the Graves. Running a little bit low on resources here. I'm going to eat up all of the red mana. I feel like in order to win, I'll need to Burnt Offering again anyway. Street Wraith plus the others. 6 mana available. Alright, so we found a Reaping. Cycle Healer. Alright, we need mana or else we fizzle. Uh-oh. Our last draw. We missed. No! We fizzled. We used so much mana up front, trying to get to the point where we were in the gap. I had used 3 songs already, so I'm not surprised that we didn't hit another. Play the Gravestalker and pass. Discard another Gravestalker. And I'm probably dead from 10 life. They use a blood token to Fiery Temper, so this will deal me 4. And then Fire Blast would be 5. That doesn't kill me yet. Am I really alive for another turn? And the next card was Songs. Okay, so can we win? If I was able to see one more card deep last turn. So the question here, excuse me, is can I get up to enough Storm where the Reaping the Graves is relevant, but also is 7 mana really enough? I've used 1 Burnt Offering, so we still have 3 copies of Burnt Offering in the deck. I'll cycle a healer. There's a Burnt Offering. That's great. Sacrifice the Chitin Gravestalker. Red, 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 and then we'll do black. We'll play a Stinger. Cycle a Monstrous Carabid. Another Reaping. I'll play Songs for 10 mana. We'll play Chitin Gravestalker for Storm, but it could also sacrifice later to Burnt Offering. And then we'll Reaping the Graves. I do not want to target any street rates because I don't want to lower my life total any further. We'll cycle again. They're at 17. Cycle the Stinger. I just want Burnt Offerings at this point. I've used all of my Songs of the Damned. So I think we have 2 more Burnt Offering. Cabal Ritual. Cycle. These street rates are a little dangerous here. Cycle. Rowan's. Cycle the Monstrous Carabid. I only have 4 mana available, so if I Reaping, I'd have to cycle a Street Wraith anyway. All 4 songs have been used. The Elementalist is in play. We have, I believe, 2 copies of Burnt Offering. I think there's 1 Cabal Ritual left. I see 3 here. I'm going to cycle a Street Wraith. I could Rowan's, but I'd have to hit exactly the Burnt Offering, and it's only +3. Alright, so we'll sacrifice the Gravestalker. Now I'm at 8 mana. I'm going to try to Rowan's. I'm already dead to Fire Blast, so what's the point of playing around it any further? I hit Dark Ritual. Okay, well that was mana positive, that's good. And now we'll Reaping the Graves. And we'll bring everyone back. So I have 8 mana floating, and they're at 11. So cycling 1 at a time does not win. If I play out a Stinger, and then I start cycling, that deals 12. So we deterministically have lethal, and I can also play out a 3rd Stinger here. Okay, I can't believe they didn't kill me from 10. Just keep cycling. A little surprised we won this one. Wow. Alright, so we got game number 1. I don't think we even sideboard with this list, you just resubmit. But going back to my mono black idea, is if you cut the Great Furnace and the Vault of Whispers and you just play 8 Swamps, if you can find a replacement for Rowan's Grim Search, which I don't know if one exists to be honest, but if there's some other card you'd like to play, you could go mono black and then not even need red mana. I wouldn't play Pyroblaster, the Siege Smashes, and then just Burnt Offering in order to win the game. I mean, this has a lot of things we like. It needs creatures, which our deck has an abundance of, so we're going to keep this. They play Mountain into Voldarin Epicure. We draw Reaping the Graves. Not a good draw on this spot. And they open-handed a Relic. That's not good for me. Looks like they're lacking the second land, though. Small upside. We'll cycle the Barrenmoor. We draw Horror of the Broken Lands. So I could try to win right now. It's just, I don't think we actually have the resources to do so. I'm going to just go to discard and discard the Burnt Offering. I have to hope that our opponent taps that mountain again on their turn. And that can give me a window to potentially do something. They use the Blood Token, discarding a Sneaky Snacker. They did find the mountain. Unfortunate. I feel like I just lost this game. We'll cycle the Horror of the Broken Lands. We draw the Chitin Gravestalker. Okay. Let's try a Dark Ritual. Cycle Draenith Healer. Dark Ritual. Cycle the Monstrous Carabid. Cycle Horror of the Broken Lands. Cycle the Stinger. And let's try a Cabal Ritual Threshold. See if this resolves. They're going to use the Relic. Unfortunate. I guess I'll cycle the Gravestalker. And I have to pass the turn. They hit land number 3 into a Gutter Snipe. Okay. Pass the turn. I go to 13 off the attack. I'm just going to concede. We can go to game 3. So a lot of you might be thinking, you just lost to a Relic. You should board in Siege Smash. I actually disagree. So I understand Siege Smash is in the deck for Relics, but in this particular matchup, I have found that boarding in Siege Smash is actually not the way to go. Because you end up fizzling a lot more often, and they only play 3. So like if they want to mulligan really low to find a Relic, that's great. The odds that they see one in their 7-card hand and the rest of their hand is very good isn't super high. So I have found better success with just ignoring the issue and just trying to win anyway. This is a pretty strong hand we'll keep. They kept 7. We'll play the Vault of Whispers and pass. Mountain and Relic. Okay. And step, I'll burn a Dark Ritual. I mean, unfortunate that they had it 2 games in a row and they're 7, but not the end of the world. And now we'll cycle a healer. I'd like to hit at least one more cycler, so that way we might be able to play a turn 2 Chitin Gravestalker. And I did not. Yep. No! Why are you like this deck? Pass. Imagine if those were Lotus Petals, we could have had that Chitin Gravestalker. Yep, we lost. We could have played the Gravestalker and returned both of our things. Yeah, we just have to pass. Because the Chitin Gravestalker would have been reduced by Lotus Petal being in the graveyard, since it cares about artifacts or creatures. And instead, we just did nothing. Yeah, we're just dead. Alright, so we are now 2-2. Obviously, there's some pros and some cons to this build. This match, I felt like the con sort of bit us in the butt. And we're now 2-2, so we're just going to try to keep our head up and win match number 5. With Card Hoarder, renting your favorite combo deck has never been easier. There isn't a more affordable solution for Magic Online. Want to play the deck in this video? Check out the pinned comment below to easily rent the deck from Card Hoarder. Did you know you can rent the Epic Storm from Card Hoarder for as little as 7 tickets a week? The final match of this Pauper League, we're on the draw. No initial mana source here. I think you're supposed to send this back. We'll try this. So the question is, do you want to bottom the second Reaping or do you want to bottom the Chitin Gravestalker? I think it's the Chitin Gravestalker. In that you just have to hope to draw creatures. They play a forest. Many Partings. Okay, I don't think I've seen that one before. They grab a swamp. So this might just be like a Golgari garden style deck. Scrapwork Mutt. Is this Dredge? Just some sort of food value deck? I don't really know what's happening anymore. We'll cycle a Monstrous Carabid. Re-rate the draw, not a bad one. Into land number 3. So I do need some creatures. In hindsight, knowing that I was going to draw another Reaping the Graves, I would have kept the Chitin Gravestalker. It's just not how it panned out. Molten Gatekeeper, so I mean that is a Dredge-like card. And I mean, Cauldron Familiar comes back from the Dredge, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is Dredge. We'll cycle. Cycle the Chitin Gravestalker. Songs of the Damned. Granite Stinger. I'll just pass. So this is 5 damage. This will put me down to 9. Ashnod's Altar. Okay. I have to imagine that I'm dead if I pass the turn. I don't think I'm dead from here, but I've been wrong before. Now they play a Limbus. This can return the Cauldron Familiar. Okay. So I'm going to go to 7. Another Limbus. Oh no. Am I dead? Please don't kill me. I'll go to 5. Mirror Retriever. I'm at 4. This gets back to Scrapwork Mutt. This puts me to 3. Another Limbus. Wow. Alright, I'm at 1. Do you have it? Looks like they were 1 point short. Cycle the Stinger. I could Dark Ritual and then Reaping here. I can't use this Re-Wraith in the graveyard. It's effectively shut off from this point. So I shouldn't even return it. It's better off just in the graveyard permanently. We are in a lot of trouble. Cycle the Monstrous Carabid. Can't use that Rowan's Grim Search. We draw another Songs. Guess we cycle Granite Stinger. See what the draw step is, or the draw is. Burnt Offering. Not really sure what I'm supposed to do. I guess I'll Songs of the Damned. Cycle the Gravestalker. This gets me to Threshold. Dark Ritual. Cabal Ritual. I feel like winning this game would be a miracle. And now while Reaping the Graves. Definitely a couple games in a row where I feel like the lack of Lotus Petal for healer is awkward. Well, we'll cycle. Cycle again. Cabal Ritual. Cycle the Monstrous Carabid. Another Stinger's not bad. That means that we can play out double Stinger post-Reaping. Play the Chitin Gravestalker. Burnt Offering. Red, red, red. And then 3 black. Play Songs for 6. And Reaping the Graves. There's actually only 5 creatures coming back. Like, am I really allowed to play double Stinger? I don't know if I can win if I don't, but it requires me drawing a lot of cyclers. We'll play a Stinger. Play another Stinger. Now we'll cycle Monstrous Carabid. They go to 22. Can't use that Re-Wraith. We'll cycle Monstrous Carabid. Cycle Horror of the Broken Lands. Songs for 4. I think I'm just dead. I don't have another Reaping. I've already used 3. Yeah, just wasting time. Alright, so that did not work. Our opponent putting me to 1 was actually incredibly effective. I think I'm going to run it back. Part of me thinks that they might have Nile Spellbombs in their sideboard, but Nile Spellbomb you can just beat by ignoring it for the most part, unlike a Relic. So I'm going to just, trust the 75. In general, I think I'm glad that I tried the Burnt Offering list today. I got to see some of the strengths, but I think the weaknesses probably don't make it worth it, but you never know. All right, against better judgment, I'm going to keep this. I'm going to live and die by Triple Street Wraith. All right, here's the first. Hey, we hit the land. Had it the whole time. All right, I'm at 14. Play the Great Furnace. We'll cycle the healer. Pass the turn. They play Forest into Nutrient Block. We'll play Vault of Whispers and pass. End step will cycle Horror of the Broken Lands. The 4th Street Wraith will cycle Drain Stinger. Card into Elementalist, okay. Cycle the Street Wraith down to 12. I think we're going to try to party here. Let's Rowan's Grim Search. Sacrifice Vault of Whispers. Take the Dark Ritual and put the other 3 to the graveyard. Pass the Dark Ritual. Let's Rowan's Grim Search again. Bargain away the Great Furnace. Triple Burnt Offering. So that means that we have 1 left. I'm going to get rid of all of these, I think. Yeah. I'll play Cabal Ritual. Cycle Horror of the Broken Lands. Cycle Monstrous Carabid. Cabal Ritual. Cycle Draenith Healer. Cycle another Draenith Healer. So we have 30 cards left in our deck, which means that we've seen 50% of our deck so far. So we should see and I say should, a Reaping the Graves, or should have seen one by now. Cycle the Stinger. There we go. So I could play out the Ardent Elementalist and just get back a Burnt Offering, and I feel like that's the move. If I'm worried about red mana, let's just do this. Sacrifice the Elementalist. We'll make 4 red. So I lost 1 black mana in order to make 4 red. And now we'll bring everyone home. Stinger, 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 and the 4th Stinger. And then we'll do 3 Street Wraith. Okay. Play the Stinger. And it's worth noting that, it doesn't have to be one list or the other. If you're smarter than I am and you think that you can solve some number of Chitin Gravestalkers with some number of Burnt Offering and Lotus Petals, hey, feel free to share your Moxfield link in the comment section or join the Storm Discord and share your thoughts there. I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just currently the way the list is configured, I'm not sure if I'm a believer, but maybe you know how to configure it better than I do. So now they're at 12. We'll play the other Great Furnace. Let's cycle a Street Wraith. They're at 8. Cycle Street Wraith. Are you going to try to weather? No, okay. I was like, why are they pausing here? Send it back. And if you're thinking oh, well, you don't have to play Chitin Gravestalker in order to support a Burnt Offering, because theoretically you could play Horror of the Broken Lands and then sacrifice that. 5 mana to Burnt Offering, it's not playable. You're better off running Blood Celebrant, and I think that card is terrible. We'll keep this. They play a first turn Nutrient Block. We'll play the Vault of Whispers and pass. Snow-Covered Swamp. And a Cauldron Familiar. We'll cycle the Horror of the Broken Lands. Healer was the draw. Great Furnace, nice. Alright, so now we're really just looking for a Reaping the Graves or a Rowan's Grim Search. That is a duress. Mirror Retriever. Okay, I go to 18. End step, we'll cycle the Carabid. Cycle the Healer. A lot of lands. Play the Vault of Whispers, pass. And this is sort of why you should hold your Barrenmoors and not just play them out on turn 1 all the time. Because there are situations like this where now you can cycle this card where instead of having 2 dead lands in your hand, it's a live draw. They play Many Partings, and they have their Mountain. Lembas. They attack for 2, I'll go to 16. End step will cycle the Barrenmoor. Cycle the Street Wraith, I go to 14. Cycle Draenith Stinger. And another land. We've seen 25% of our deck, and we hit a Rowan's Grim Search. Alright, so we have Threshold. I'm going to play Cabal Ritual. I'm going to choose to believe in the heart of the cards here. Rowan's Grim Search. I'll take another Rowan's Grim Search. We'll bin the others. Another Cabal Ritual. Okay. Pass the Rowan's Grim Search. Sacrifice. Actually, let's sacrifice a Great Furnace. In case I fizzle, I'd like a black land in play. Sacrifice the Great Furnace. There's the Reaping the Graves. Rowan's Grim Search is so good. I know earlier I talked about, like, theoretically you could play a list without it. I think Rowan's Grim Search is the glue in this deck, and I wouldn't remove the glue personally, but there's some people that do not like the card for whatever reason. I think they're wrong, but they're allowed to have their own opinions, even if they're incorrect. So let them do whatever makes them happy. We'll play Songs of the Damned and Reaping the Graves. Okay, and now we'll just return our stuff and win the game. Like, I think part of the issue today is that we only have 3 Rowan's Grim Search and not all 4. Okay, so we've returned everyone. We'll now play Adranus Stinger and start cycling. They go back down to 20. Just keep cycling. It also stinks because, like, the match against Mono Blue Terror or Dimir Terror, I felt like that was very winnable if we had hit a black land in our first draw or two, game 3, but we just didn't. And, you know, sometimes variance happens. Like, really, this league doesn't mean that much to me. But I would have liked to have won it. Play another Stinger. Cycle the street rate down to 4. Let's cycle another Stinger. They're at 10. We'll play Songs of the Damned. Cycle a Chitin Gravestalker. I have to say, the 2 mana on Chitin Gravestalker did not matter as much as I would have guessed this league. I think that's a revelation that I had. Is I expected the 2 mana to matter a lot more than it did. I'm not saying that I would move it into the main deck of my normal list, but I expected it to be more clunky than it actually was. And now we'll cycle, and they just conceded instead. Okay, so we got 3-2. We lost to the Dimir Terror deck where we didn't hit black mana, and then we lost to Burn, where our life total got really low and we were never able to really get off the ground. So I think without Lotus Petal, the deck is slightly slower, and you have less initial black mana sources. But once you get going, the Burnt Offerings are better than Lotus Petal. I don't really know if I have super strong opinions. I'd probably run the stock list. Like, if I was going to Pauper Geddon or a Grand Prix or some other large event, not that Grand Prix exist anymore, but hopefully you know what I mean. And I would play the stock list that you can find on my Mox field. That said, I think this list performed slightly above what I expected, if I'm being honest. Burnt Offering was not bad. The main deck Chitin Gravestalkers were not bad. I think not having Lotus Petal was kind of an issue. Ardent Elementalist had 2 spots where I can think of that where it was pretty good, but I also hated how it got stuck in my hand a lot, and I didn't love that. Writhing Necromass was fun. I liked playing it versus the Terror deck. It was really awesome to just play out a bunch of zombies. So that is one upside of having the Chitin Gravestalker in the main deck. Something you could try is not playing Imposing Vantasaur in the stock list, and then instead playing Chitin Gravestalker, and then you get the Writhing Necromass in the sideboard, and you get the best of both worlds. But Chitin Gravestalker does cycle for 2, so there will be some games in which you end up a mana short, and then, you know, actually there was one game this league where I ended up a mana short where I cycled the Chitin Gravestalker, and then the next card was Songs of the Damned, and we lost that game. So that could have been a game win. Just throwing that out there. So I don't know how to fix this per se, and I'm becoming really ranty and rambly again, but there's something here. So if you want to solve it, join the Storm Discord, talk about it there. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, all that great stuff. Let me know if I cooked or if this is burnt once again in the comments section. Thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and as always, keep storming. What you should do is like, comment, and subscribe because there's no better way to support us. And if you enjoyed this video, head over to moxfield.com and follow us there. It's truly the best deck website on the internet. We update all of our decks there regularly with the latest and greatest technology, so you're always up to date. Once again, go check out Moxfield, and thank you for watching.